Hey guys, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here, hello. So, very exciting. This is my pedal board, but rather than just talk about my pedal board, we thought what we would do is speak a little bit about how it came together, some of the things you might want to consider if you're building a pedal board for the first time, or if, like me, you're going from various kind of chuck together boards to something
more substantial.
A grown-up's pedal board. First question you ask me is, what pedals do you want on there?
Mm-hmm. The reason that is seriously important is some guys have pedals that they will use and never ever change. Some guys will have pedals that they change a lot. So for example, the pedals that we've got here, there are pedals that have got dual foot switch function. We need to be able to get at those.
Yeah, it's about the ergonomics, isn't it?
Exactly.
And that was, so choosing the pedals to begin with was literally impossible considering how many pedals we've got, or I have. And so that was stage one, and that started by, we'll put some pictures up because I think I've still got them, where I'd start off, I did a few things at home where it's probably the same as you would do, sketched them out on a piece of paper, but then I actually got to the point where I'd get the pedals and set them down on the floor in the configuration that I thought would work. Mm-hmm. Finally got to a sort of working end of that, sent it to Dan and said, I think it's going to be this, at which point you look at the board and then you know what size board to order. Yeah,
so one of the things is, okay, did Mick want a switching system on there? Did he want to go just a straightforward loop switcher or something more substantial? Because of the options that we talked about, things like wet, dry, stereo, all that stuff, we opted for a G2. Therefore, we could do things like have this top level up here. And these are things that have got the dual function. So, choosing the presets on the free the tone, changing the speed on the Deja Vibe.
Being able to select, because this is the prototype D&M, so right. it doesn't have the TRS, so I need to be able to physically change them, tap tempo, stuff like that.
Yep. Knowing that there are things that are absolutely essential, need to go on there, okay, they can go in a certain position that you don't need to get at,
yep.
You're happy. But things that may change, you need to be able to move them around. That also has a big impact on what you choose to attach the pedals to the boards with.
That's what we're gonna do next. So just to explain that, when the first iteration of this appeared, I had a TC Hall of Fame reverb, which I changed out for this because this has got a reverse setting on it, which I kind of needed. There was an Empress delay, tape delay, which I absolutely love. However, like everybody, there was a financial reality to ending up with that pedal, and I thought, you know what, whatever that's going to cost me to buy, I've got this sat there, it'll do for now, and it actually sounds really good.
Sounds great.
There's no, if you think Dan and I have just got instant access to all the pedals in the world, it's not the case.
One day.
It costs money, and this costs crazy amount of money, so I had to make a really serious decision about that because, the board itself is pretty expensive.
Definitely.
Which we'll get into. So, one question we get asked all the time, how on earth do you attach your pedals to the board, Daniel?
Okay, so again, that comes down to, if we're doing a board for a guy that's going on tour, these are the pedals he's using, he won't be changing them, it needs to be rock solid, well then we'll use something called pedalboard tape, which I have.
We had some around, so
right here. Easy. Okay, so this is pedalboard tape. It's it's a dual lock 3M type stuff. The difference to Velcro is you've got a loop and a hook system. Well, this is the same on both sides, and there's little mushrooms, and they clip into each other, and then the thing with this is the glue on here is very strong, and once they go on, the way that I like to do it is I like to put this, there's two ways to do it. You can put this on the board and also put that on the pedal and clip them in like that. That is locked on there then, and really difficult to move.
Yeah, so just to explain that, if you try and just pull it away from each other, it's virtually impossible, and you need to get something in between there to prise it off.
That's right.
If you can peel it like that, which of course you can't do with the pedal because the pedal doesn't flex. I mean, they're not. These pedals aren't even on there with dual lock, and they it's a struggle to get them off.
Yeah.
So,
So one thing is if you've got a really good hook Velcro, like industrial grade, that sticks. The problem with most Velcro is the glue isn't as strong as the Velcro itself. So you just pull it off. It might as well be double-sided tape then.
Yeah.
You know. The great thing with this is that this really sticks to the pedal, and if you've got good loop Velcro, then that sticks nicely to the Velcro. It's not impossible to get off the Velcro, but it will really hold it.
And in the case, you know, this can be stored on its end or on its side or whatever, and there's no way they're ever gonna fall off. I tell you what else I like about this stuff is when you stick it on the back of a pedal, it'll come off cleanly.
Yeah.
I haven't had one pedal yet where it pulls the paint off. I'm sure it would on some pedals, but I was really comfortable sticking that on my. I'm going to prove it. I was comfortable sticking that stuff on my Klon because I know that it will just come off cleanly, and I could just use a bit of white spirit or something if it left a residue, but it doesn't leave a residue like a lot of Velcros I've used do. So totally recommend that. It's
very good. There are boards that I've done where the main purpose is being used in the studio, and they want to swap pedals around a lot. And then I won't use this. I'll use normal Velcro, and I'll use a tiny little bit. And there's a way that I'll do it. I'll put a thin strip along the back, and I'll put triangles at the front, so that when you lift up the front, it's a long triangle. So there's it releases it more easier at the front, and then it can pull off the back. Whereas if trying to get off the back, it's really tough.
Oh, that's clever. So the pointy bits at the front.
Yes.
Oh man, that's clever.
So story behind that one is I did the board for Noel Gallagher in the studio. Honk. And he, you know, I thought I'd done it so he could quite easily get them off. He wanted it easier to get off, and I was racking my brain thinking, how on earth? And then I come up with the idea. I thought maybe if I just put it in the corners, and I cut a corner bit of Velcro and thought, hang on, that's a triangle. And so I did long triangles and just went, right?
And off it came.
Nice, off it came. So
whereas,
there we go.
and that's sort of a bit what we were saying earlier about the peeling thing. Whereas if you try and just pull it straight off that way, it won't come.
Yeah. So that works really well. So, you know, Mick wants to be able to change things about, but, you know, not every day.
Let's pull something off, put something new on.
Okay, all right.
Just as a description of how that works. Right, so the first thing that's coming off, two things are coming off today, the Deja Vibe and this Reverb.
Okay.
This is coming off because, bizarrely, even though I'm doing a Hendrix gig, it doesn't get used because we're doing Are You Experienced, and there is no vibe or wah-wah
really?
on Are You Experienced, which was new. I'm like putting this brilliant Hendrix board together going, awesome, you know. No. And this is coming off for practical reason, because I need to create some space because of what's going to go next to this.
Okay, so there we go.
See?
This is really interesting. Another thing that we love about the pedalboard tape. You see these feet here. Now I don't want to take these feet off because these feet are actually what attaches the base plate to the top of the pedal.
Yeah.
So one thing with the pedalboard tape is that once you put a square of pedalboard tape on, you see that the feet come down lower than the pedalboard tape. Well, you can then make a little square of pedalboard tape and like a little riser, and that will attach to that, and then that sits nicely on the Velcro. So I use this for wah pedals. I use it for like neutrons and things that have got feet that you don't want to get rid of.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
It's quite a job, isn't it? So I'm just going to do this so we know what's what. So that's going to go there. We might have to change some cabling in a minute. I think that's pretty obvious that we're going to have to do that. The other thing that's going to go on is one of the things that I've been experimenting with recently is using Simon Jarrett's preamp type pedals into the effects loop return of the amp.
Awesome.
And I'm really liking it for certain drives. So I want to add the Page ODS.
Okay.
Clunk. And Simon, bless him, has given me a prototype of this switch which lifts the EQ out of the Maiden.
Okay, so we need to get access to this.
Yeah, so this needs to be on the top. So
Okay,
we know. So that needs to go in there.
Right.
Blah blah blah. We can do all that in a second.
Let me go
Look at it. Look at it. This is live. This is actually happening. That one's on there, by the way. Sorry.
It's okay. Oh, he has done it. Okay. Now, one thing that's really good to do when
Got
you're
a
bit of paper.
Napkin.
Napkin, perfect. So, it's Mick's birthday today. We bought him some cake and napkins.
Because we're grown-ups. Grown-ups. We probably could.
Should have seen the cake I nearly bought you. This is what I love about having jacks on the top.
Yeah.
You can get things really close. So if that goes there, I have this here. So, okay, no, we'll make this work.
D&M drive could come this way.
It can. All I need is a little bit that way, a little bit that way, sorted.
Happy days.
Happy days. So as you can see here, gee, that looks nice, doesn't it?
Simon explained to me that basically the tone controls are attached to ground or something.
Yes.
So this is a TRS cable that just lifts that and takes the tone stack out of the Maiden, which just makes the whole thing drive a bit more. It does have an LED if you want to run power to it, but I don't,
You don't need it.
need that.
Yep.
So
We'll
it's
run.
just totally passive.
Yeah, we'll still run a cable to it because so you know where you are.
Okay, all right.
So one other thing, we're going to find somewhere else to put the bank manager. One of the issues that you've got, if I put this pedal right here, then we've got the on-off switch next to the tap tempo. Every time Mick would hit that, he runs a risk of hitting this.
Yeah, or if I put my foot that way, I mean, I could get some very pointy shoes. Because bear in mind also, I'm not that good with tapping with my right foot. My left foot, sorry. And if I'm singing, which is quite often happening, then I'm singing, looking forward in the mic and trying to tap with my left foot. And so being a little bit further away is great.
I'm just, now that this is as far away as it'll go, I just want to make sure that's...
One question I have,
Yes.
is there any issue with like a metal jack plug touching the metal case of another pedal?
It all depends on, but generally no,
Yeah.
because you are connected, the ground from each pedal is connected anyway.
Right.
So, generally no.
Yeah, I'd often
Not
thought
really.
that when I was trying to butt stuff up together really close, but... So this is a practicality thing, all things considered, I probably prefer the sound of the Empress, but I don't use reverb that much, and there's one particular sound on the Hall of Fame that I really do love, and it saves me a load of space, so that's a practicality measure primarily.
This is going to sit here. Oh, look at that.
Oh, look at that, and in we go.
Just gorgeous.
Happy days.
Okay, so the way this works is, this is the Page ODS, which is the overdrive channel of the
Double
double
overdrive
overdrive
special.
special.
Well, configured with this.
Configured with this. So
Yeah.
the way this is basically the clean channel of the Dumble, and the way that the Dumble works is, it's not a whole separate channel. It just engages another gain stage basically at the end of the clean channel, which is exactly what this does. So when you engage this, after this, you get the Dumble overdrive channel.
We'll get into the signal routing in a minute, but
Yep.
so I hit the drive pedals first, then I go into the preamps, and then the modulation and other stuff. Well, actually, the vibe's going to come before. Don't know, because we're going to do wet dry. We'll explain that in a sec. The drives go into the front of the preamps, and then the reverbs and delays come after that. So it's in a sense, it's a little like having the reverb and delay in your loop,
Right.
in a way. But
One thing that Mick wants to be able to do is to have the option when the mood strikes to have a wet-dry rig.
It's really an option rather than a regular thing because, like most people, for the vast majority of the time, I'm using 1 amp.
Sure. So what we're going to do, this is a humdinger. The humdinger has an input. It has 2 outputs, one standard buffered output and an isolated output. Now this is really important. When you're talking about having multiple amplifiers, you need one path to earth from your pedal board, and everything else needs to be isolated. So what I'll do here, we don't need to get at this, you know, just every now and then to change the phase button. So I can hide that underneath the tier here and just run the isolated output to this little Synco. Now what this is, if you can see behind here.
It's just in and out, isn't it?
Yeah,
Synco?
this is a little 5 in 5 out patch bay. The cool thing about this, it also does TRS connections as well. But all the outputs are isolated from each other.
So, for example, at the moment, this is outputs 1 and 2 from G2.
Yep.
So when I plug my out to my amp, it comes out of there for amp 1,
and that's
there for out 2.
Exactly. So this is your main earth from out 1.
Yeah.
That's an isolated out for out 2. And what I'll do is I'll put a connection here to come from the wet dry, so that, you know, if you want a wet dry, you just stick it straight in there, put that to your dry amplifier.
Yep.
Away you go. And it just means that you're not trying to get under here all the time to plug cables in. It makes a massive difference.
So the critically important thing about the wet dry is that we tap the dry signal at the right place. So
Yes.
at the moment, the signal goes in loop 1, which also happens to be on foot switch 1, but bear in mind they're not the same thing. In loop 1 is the fuzz, in loop 2 is the octave, in loop 3 is the D&M drive.
Mm-hmm.
Then it hits the Maiden.
Yes.
Then it hits the Page.
Yes.
So at that point, I want my dry out to
Yep.
come between loops 5 and 6.
Perfect.
So if I'm sending just a dry signal, it's potentially getting everything from loop 1 to loop 5, which is all the drives. Off it goes to the dry amp. The wet amp will get all of that, plus whatever's in loop 6, which is the chorus, I believe, then the vibe, then the delay,
Yes.
then the reverb,
Yep.
then the tremolo.
Perfect. So how am we going to put the humdinger in between loops 5 and 6? One of the things that we designed here was a volume insert, but you can use it for anything, including connecting up to your amps effects loop and doing things like wet dry.
I did not know that.
And the great thing about that is you can actually put that between any loops. So we'll show you how to do that in a bit. So I'm making the cables for the insert loop for the humdinger. Pretty much the only patch cables I use now, almost exclusively, are it's the SIS system for Evidence Audio, and I'll show you why.
It's so funny watching you doing that. So Dan takes a pair of like garden shears basically, and just deftly cuts around the insulation around the outside. I'm there with the scalpel, like chopping the end of my finger off.
So
Yeah, literally.
now,
You could use wire cutters, of course, but
there are better things to use than that. That's just what I had to hand. Okay, this is why I love these cables. This is the Evidence Audio monorail cable, and this has been my favourite patch cable for a long time. You pair this with the SAS plug. The SAS stands for screw and solderless. On the inside, there's a place that a little hole that threads into the tip. So you wrap the earth around the outside, that sits on the plug, and then the tip screws into the solid core. Now, grab that. Grab it.
wow.
This is the thing. I know that is now connected directly to the tip. I'm not guessing that I've got some sort of pin. It might be touching around the outside of a braid. I know for a fact that is connected in a really tough way to the tip. So now all I do is I bend the cable, I put the cap on, screw that in. which screws the center core even further.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's it. One thing I really do not like in any build is tension on cables.
Yeah.
You know, the cables, if they're tight, you haven't left enough room.
It's a
You haven't left
recipe for
enough
disaster.
length.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah.
There's tidy and there's tidy, isn't there? Because if Simon just comes around here and has a look under here, you might look at that and you might think, oh my goodness me, there's just a million wires and everything, and we've got all these power options which we'll talk about in a minute. But actually, everything's gone in one by one. It's all there. We've just, when we were trying to reroute some of the pedals that we took off to put the new ones on, it's really easy just to pull the cables back through, reroute them and everything. And it's.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a really, really tidy board. The sort of a practical board for me, a great thing about these tier systems is when that closes down,
that's like,
it hides all that stuff. It looks amazing. And here, everything's connected. You know, you can see exactly where everything is. I do some boards where the guys want it really tidy, and that's great. And I can bunch all the cables together, and I can cable tie everything, and it looks amazing. But
yeah, when you want to change
something, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, no, I'm over that. No, it's you know, kind of workable down there, thing of beauty up here. Right, so we're at the point where all the pedals are on, the signal wires are all in, and you're just finishing off a bit of power. So let's talk about power. All these pedals have slightly different power requirements. So actually, to be fair, everything's 9 volt on this board. Oh no, this is 12.
Yep.
I think, or it might be 9 anyway. Nothing very complicated like center positive or 24 volts or anything like that.
No.
So everything's coming in on a generator.
Yep.
Which is the Gig Rig's main Big Daddy power supply.
So, and from there, that connects to what we call a distributor. So the idea is the generator has a massive amount of current it can supply, 5 amps, 5,000 milliamps. That goes to a distributor, and that distributes the power out to where you need it.
Why did you call it the distributor?
And it's also, where a lot of people get confused, it's very different to a daisy chain.
Yeah.
A daisy chain, if you've got one pedal after the other, it's the pedal at the end, when that's drawing current, it's got to be enough current at the first part of that cable. In other words, all of those.
It's like your broadband signal. If you want a house on the end,
exactly.
Forget it.
You've got to have enough current being able to be drawn in a daisy chain for all of the pedals on it.
Yeah.
And those daisy chains can only deliver an amp, sort of at best. I've seen guys with rigs come in and the daisy chains have melted.
And we all know that 5 amps is better than 1 amp, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hooking the Humdinger here up to an isolator. So this is one of the things that is connected to the distributor. And this isolator has 4 9-volt isolated outputs. And, so it delivers about 140 milliamps of really clean isolated 9-volt current per output.
Per output. Okay, so you wouldn't want to put a very current hungry pedal on that.
No.
So your system of fixing things involves pushing wires in a hole.
That's right.
This is the technical bit. The plus side is marked on the cable.
Yeah, so
it's got white stuff on it.
A white tab and a black tab. The cables have a white stripe and then the black cable. So the white stripe goes underneath the white tab, like this. Then you push the tabs.
So, using the medium of paper and pens, Dan.
Like it.
Tell me if this is correct. You don't have to stay on your knees, by the way. It's slightly awkward. So, mains.
Yep.
This is the mains, and we know it's the mains because it's got 3 prongs like this.
I like it.
That goes to the generator.
Yes.
Yeah? Generator.
Very good.
The generator then goes to any number. No, it goes to a distributor first.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. And then the distributor goes to any number of isolators.
High current adapters, whatever you need. Yeah, exactly.
And off it goes. And just to explain that, high current adapter, so your Time Lord, for example, what's that?
So that's a 9-volt high current adapter. So for things that require over 150 milliamps of current, things like a lot of the digital effects, you know, your Strymons and your TC Electronic Hall of Fame, and those sorts of things require a lot more than your analog effects do. So for that, we've done the Time Lord, which is basically delivers between, you know, up like half an amp of current.
Okay.
But it's still 9 volts, but it's just a massive amount of current.
Yeah.
That these big digital effects and some of the, you know, the low current valve effects need to run clean.
So forget your fancy ass on-screen graphics. We have the medium of Sharpie. Let's say you've got over here somewhere your vintage Electro Harmonix Electric Mistress.
Yes.
What needs to go between the distributor and that to get to the Electric Mistress?
So that's an 18 volt pedal.
Yeah.
So we need a doubler on that, and that doubles the voltage.
Yeah.
So same sort of shape as the Time Lord, but that changes the 9 volt input there to isolated 18 volts at the output.
And so we could apply that theory to any other kind of pedal.
Yeah, 9, 12, 15, 18, 24 volt.
Polarity reverse.
Yeah, so you can get, if you need a reverse polarity, you can get the little adapter that goes on the end. Asking about the Electric Mistress, that requires a mini jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the old Electro Harmonix pedals need that.
And so if you're watching this at this point, you're going, oh my goodness me, I just done 300 quid on a board.
Mm-hmm.
I've done probably at least 100 quid on patch cables.
Yeah.
And the rest.
Yeah, easy.
And I've done 70... a couple of 100 quid on power, easy. Mm-hmm. It's really serious, isn't it?
It's serious. It's a big deal. But this is the difference between having something that gets the job done,
yeah,
or having something that inspires you night after night.
It's a professional tool.
Exactly.
Is what it is.
Exactly.
It's a professional tool, which is an indulgence for me, I have to admit. You know, because I'm not touring the world. So it is an indulgence, but hey, why not?
It's nice.
Right, let's go and plug it in.
All right. That is mega.
It's not bad.
Mega.
Right, let's go back to the beginning. I'm going to turn one of these
Boy,
amps
boy.
off.
Boy, oh boy. What a sound.
So here we go. So, Dan, thank you. It's been something of an emotional arrival. It was pretty good on the Joey night when we did that back in February. It's been amazing through the Hendrix stuff, but just having made these few tweaks now, it's moved it on to something that's more where I want it to be rather than what was appropriate for those 2 gigs.
Yep.
So hopefully this video is interesting to you, not because of the pedals I've chosen or because of what I'm going to play, but because of what it will help you to do in terms of thinking about your board. Dan and I did a show a little while ago talking about feeding the effects return of your amp with a preamp style pedal, and that was quite a revelation for both of us. Yeah,
pretty much because of that sound. You know, when we had the Page ODS after the Maiden, that just really rocked my world when I heard that.
Which is what we've got here. So let's have a listen to that. So amps I would normally use are my 2 Rock Studio Pro 35 and either the Mesa Lone Star or a Victory V40. And it's not very often I get to use 2 amps, but that's what it would be. Unfortunately, the 2 Rock decided to...
Not very happy at the moment.
Not very happy. There's a valve not very happy, and we didn't really have time to go through it and check it. So stepping in more than ably is the Lone Star as the wet amp. And so if we've just got 1 amp, that's what we're hearing. So everything you're hearing now is all of this going into the effects return of the Lone Star. And that works because we're hitting fuzzes, octave, drive first, just as you normally would. And then we're hitting a preamp. So these 2 pedals here, the Kingsley Maiden and the Page ODS, are both valve preamps. And then after that comes all the other gubbins.
Modulation, delay, reverb, tremolo, all that stuff.
Yeah, and so here it is. Here is... oh yeah, I've got to apologise to Dan for this tape. The way G2 works is you don't have to have loop 1 on switch 1. So for me, in loop 1 is the fuzz, but because my brain is just taking a little while, I have to have it on switch 1 because that's what's in loop 1. We're going to get past that by the end of this video. He's like, how long have I known you? How long have I known you? So we're set on stomp box mode, so everything is turned on and offable at the moment, to quote those.
On and offable.
Yeah, the geezers off the advert. So right, less talking, more playing. So as you can see, when I press 4, on comes loop 4, and in loop 4 is the Maiden. So if I play the guitar, this is straight into the loop return of the boogie without any...
Guitar straight in.
Yeah. Playing through a sock.
Yep.
If you hit that with a valve preamplifier such as the Kingsley Maiden... It's actually got the boost on at the moment as well, so we'll turn that off. We'll get there in the end. It's clean, really nice, and that's based on the Dumble Clean channel. But yeah, you know, it sounds kind of Fendery, but with a bit of a stronger mid-range. And Simon has made this little passive EQ lift, which enables you to drop the tone stack out of the Maiden. So you get this. So that's how that works. And then if I switch in the page on top of that, we go from this.
So it's velvety.
Yeah, that's all ampy drive, and it's got a lot of that kind of real world high end and aggression left in there, which often gets, you know, out of a really smooth distortion that gets lost, doesn't it? And just for a comparison, this is what it sounds like into the Lone Star. which is essentially the wet amp, the main amp. This is what it sounds into the Victory, which might be a bit louder, I don't know. Pretty nice, hearing the extra room of that 212. And then both together. So we're going to leave the Victory off for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
What are you hearing?
The Victory's brighter, yeah. It sounds mega. On together, it just sounds so good. The Strat just sounds so fat. I'm loving the the combination of the valve overdrives together, hitting the effects return. I just think it's just such a great way to do it.
Yeah, it does sound open like an amp to me.
Yeah.
We're not very loud in here today, and there's part of me is going, I wish it was a bit louder, because I know that some of the kind of grunting power is missing, which we'd be getting if we were playing at decent volume, which I think is where the difference in these things really comes out.
Right.
Pedals sound great at low volumes and big and fat and everything, but I think where these things really stand out is where the amp is really cooking.
Sure.
Okay, so that's briefly that. I would very much like, Dan, to hear that with the Les Paul. We're swapping the cable because I don't have a 321. I have no need for one, so we're just old school, swapping the cable. Right, what did we have? We had everything on. We had the Maiden on. And we haven't even
we
haven't even touched an overdrive pedal yet. They're all just valve preamps, yeah? Into the amps. So that was both amps. Let's just see what this guitar sounds like on that same setting. Maiden page, and that was it, wasn't it? All that gain, all that volume, nothing.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Just awesome. It's awesome. I tell you what, this is, for humbuckers, this is probably my favourite overdrive sound.
Really?
The clarity, the detail in the pick attack, it's something else. It really is something else.
Does keep, you've got loads of gain, but you've got loads of mumbo as well.
Man alive.
It's a sound that could punish a man, isn't it?
Boy, oh boy.
Because it's that really weird thing where you've got loads of gain and loads of sustain, but articulation and...
That's the thing that's doing my head in.
Yeah.
It is so clear.
Yeah.
I can tell you that there are 7 little notches on the edge of my pick.
Yeah.
Every time it's stress, like, oh yeah, 7.
Yeah.
The detail is incredible.
And I think, you know, if the notes aren't flowing off my fingers today, that's because that is kind of surprising. And it's like, oh, I can hear that.
Yeah.
I need to be a little bit more...
on it.
I need to be a little looser here in order to be doing this, but that's just a getting used to thing. Okay,
Boy,
so
boy,
I'm going to turn the victory
boy.
off again just for a second, but I think that is doing a pretty sterling job of the overdrive sound. So,
And just a little note with the victory as well. We're not using the effects return on the victory.
no,
We're going straight in the front.
we tried the effects return, and it was actually it was hitting the effects return in a way that the effects return didn't really like it. So we're going in the front. We've got the gain at about 9 o'clock, and the master at 1 o'clock.
So if you don't have an effects return in your amplifier, and even if you do, sometimes going straight in the front end and just setting it up so it's really clean, it can work fantastic.
I can see Simon Jarrett watching this. Hello, Simon. Going, no, don't do it like that. But it's sounding pretty good.
It sounds amazing.
So, moving on to the Hall of Fame. When we were building the board, I was mentioning there's a couple of sounds on this I like. And, oh, here you go, you're plugged in. So, Dan's telly straight into the effects return.
Just magic.
That's what I like.
Just
That's
magic.
the mod setting. The tile setting's pretty cool too.
Oh, yeah. That's lovely.
There you go.
Yeah, that tile setting is amazing.
It's cool. It's cool.
Really
and I
cool.
switched in a bit of
Slappy backy.
slappy back.
Yeah, nice.
Which brings us quite neatly onto the Reptile 2, which is a tape delay type pedal. I had the Empress tape delay on there before, but when it came to paying for it, I was like, yeah, actually, this has cost me quite a lot of money. I think I'm going to just have to stick with what I have. And actually, I actually thought, here's a lesson in power for you, I actually thought the Reptile was broken.
Right.
And it was not broken, it was just that I was trying to power it off my old power supply,
Right.
which just wasn't giving it enough.
Love.
Yeah. So it's not broken at all. It just wasn't getting enough current.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and I hadn't used it for a long time for that reason. And I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm going to either fix this or find someone who can fix it. Plugged it in, and it sounds good.
Great.
So yeah, very happy with that. The Magnavibe we spoke about earlier. Here you go. Have a go on this. Okay.
That is awesome. I have to have one.
Yeah. So
What a sound. It's different from any other modulation pedal.
So what you heard there was I turned the dry amp on part of the way through, and the dry amp, the signal is split. If you imagine this as the effects order, is split after here.
Mm-hmm.
So the dry amp is getting only the drives, and the wet amp is getting chorus, vibrato, delay, reverb, and tremolo. So
that is so mega.
The Victory just being dry,
Yeah.
obviously keeps all the clarity, all the attack and everything.
Okay,
and
so
the wet amp.
Why this is really important. Sorry, I'm moistening up.
Yeah, sorry,
That
I'm not
magic.
Tell you what's weird is it sounds so clear and so good that it's immediately asking me to play different stuff.
Yeah, I love that.
And stuff that
That's why this stuff is important, people.
I've got my head into so many other things at the moment that my fingers aren't quite following my brain very quickly.
But that change in sound leads you down a different path.
Yeah, and I just need to spend some time with
good.
it.
Yeah, no, it's so good.
Yeah.
And why? So this is why the wet dry in this situation works so well, because we've got this amazing clarity from the valve preamps. It's important not to lose that. And if we, and like the sound that you had then, quite a lot of effects on there.
Yeah, it's wet.
But having the clarity of that dry amplifier, it retains all of that beautiful detail and pick attack. Very special.
So very cool. It's definitely, in terms of drive, it's definitely every texture of drive that I would ever want in my kind of normal sort of bluesy rocky world, which I'm normally in. But then, you know, just for fun, we've got, because I'm doing a Hendrixy thing at the moment, there's Anyway,
That's so cool.
so the Octafuzz, and of course. So that's the D&M drive hitting the Maiden. So every texture of drive that I would ever need. Plus, the really important thing is it's all just instantly tweakable.
Yeah.
And I can see everything, because quite often, you know what it's like, you'll set up a great sound and it'll sound all brilliant at home, and then you go to the rehearsal. We've said this so many times. Go to the rehearsal and everything changes, and you just need, I don't know, a different balance of drive and master, or a bit more presence or something just to cut, and everything's there.
Yeah.
And because of the way my brain works, I'm not confused by any of that.
No.
Because I know where to go to just change what I need to change quickly.
It sounds amazing, dude. I'm moved by how good that sounds.
Me too.
It's pretty awesome.
And just, you know, the Lone Star is a fantastic
so
amp.
good. So good.
Normally I would use my 2-rock because it just has that kind of, it has the clean thing that I really love. But I've got no issue with that whatsoever. No, that sounds amazing. And with the V40.
Yeah.
Tremolo is the one thing we didn't do. We kind of looked at it at the beginning, didn't we? So this is the Hamstead signature tremolo, which is just... Which is where we came in, I think. Pretty mega, mate.
Boy, oh boy.
Pretty mega, and because just it was good you haven't done the wah wah. Just in case you don't know what a wah wah sounds like, this is the Fulltone Clyde standard, and it has the buffer, which I've got turned on.
Nice.
So there we go.
Good.
And it's not, what's important to say, it's a work in progress. You know, ever since you've made it first, it's changing. But hopefully what you've seen in this video is that to do that isn't the world's biggest pain.
No.
You just pull things off, you put them on, you move
But we
a
all
couple
do.
cables out.
That's what, you know, we all want to keep experimenting and trying things, and you know, having a board set up that allow you to do that, I think is really, really important.
It's what I love about decent pedals, because, you know, okay, the cost of entry to that is crazy. If you go from a standing start to that, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't have any kids. It's amazing how many guitar pedals you can buy when you don't have kids. I don't smoke. It's amazing how many guitar pedals you can buy when you don't smoke.
Good point.
So, you know, everyone has their vices, and mine happens to be this. So, yes, it's expensive, but once you've got a bunch of pedals, swapping them in and out isn't that expensive because you pick up something every few weeks or every couple of months or whatever, and you sell something on eBay or better still, reverb.com, and, you know, you trade stuff, and that's part of the fun of all of this, isn't it? Because, you know, in 2 minutes I'll be like, oh, I don't like delay. Even though it's completely brilliant. So there we are. Hopefully, via the medium of my ridiculous pedal board build, some inspiration, some help, and some tips in doing it for yourself, whether you're doing it on this scale or whether you're just putting together your first few pedals. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. You're so welcome. Happy birthday.
It's my birthday.
Mick's birthday today.
It's like, oh, it's so birthday. Anyway, yeah, okay, good. Right. Yeah. I got one more thing to say, which involves this guitar, I think.
And alive. So good. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed that. And a massive thank you to everyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and one of our t-shirts or our mugs or the pics or bags and paraphernalia.
Yeah. Hopefully a D&M drive soon.
Yes. Soon.
Yeah, before too much longer.
Yes. Also, massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Thank you guys so much. And finally, to our preferred retailers in the UK, that is Anderton's Music. In America, that is Riff City Music. And in Australia, that is
Pedal Empire.
Pedal Empire. There we go. Well done. Well done. Cheers, guys. I hope you really enjoyed that. It's been amazing. Amazing. And we'll see you next week.
Okay.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.